Corporal Roy Mason, waist-deep in murky waters, watched 3 Japanese soldiers waiting ahead. He could not yet know the impossible task he was about to undertake. Over 12 days, this one man would eliminate 73 enemy soldiers alone. This terrain was deemed impassable by an entire division of American forces. In January 1945, the American 37th Infantry Division advance in the Philippines halted. South of San Manuel, a sprawling swamp 3 miles long blocked their flank. This strategic obstacle remained firmly under Japanese military control. Within its shadowy waterways, 150 enemy troops established a base. They used it for relentless raids and constant ambushes. Standard military doctrine suggested bypassing such a position and isolating the enemy. However, this swamp was no isolated pocket. It directly threatened supply routes. It also endangered the American forces' left flank protection. 2 American patrols had ventured into its depths, and neither had returned. Command now declared the area too dangerous, an impassable natural fortress. Among the ranks was Roy Mason, a 28-year-old soldier with an unusual background. He had 14 years tracking and hunting alligators in the Florida Everglades. His platoon sergeant dismissed these skills, arguing Philippine swamps bore no resemblance. When Mason proposed his water-stalking methods, a lieutenant scoffed, asking if he intended to wrestle Japanese. Mason patiently explained his expertise moving silently through waist-deep water. He could read submerged channels, effectively engaging targets at close range. His superiors remained unconvinced that gator hunting had relevance for clearing a Japanese-held swamp. Mason, however, understood the universal principles of water and terrain. He had grown up in Ochape, Florida, learning his craft from his father. By his late 20s, he had personally killed over 300 alligators. Each required a silent approach through water and a keen understanding of currents. Also, the ability to read subtle surface disturbances and immense patience. These skills translated directly, moving without creating ripples, discerning deep channels. He found solid ground beneath opaque water and understood how sound traveled. Critically, he distinguished natural swamp sounds from unnatural human movements. At 6:15 on January 14th, American forces held dry ground. However, the swamp remained a Japanese sanctuary, completely untouched. Conventional infantry tactics had failed. Patrols became disoriented easily. The noise of soldiers instantly alerted the Japanese, leading to ambushes. At 7:45, Captain Reynolds called Mason over for a critical discussion. Reynolds had been studying aerial photographs, useless for traditional planning. He asked Mason if he could navigate such a maze. Mason confirmed he could, but only if he worked alone on a gator hunt. This meant silent water movement, using natural channels, prioritizing patience over speed. Reynolds observed this contradicted every tactical principle of unit cohesion. Mason argued that those principles assumed dry ground, but swamps demanded different rules. Reynolds gave him a deadline, 1,400 hours, 8 hours, to prove his methods. If Mason succeeded, his approach would be authorized for the mission. Otherwise, the division would bypass the swamp, accepting the inherent risks. At 0820, Mason entered the swamp alone, carrying his M1 Garand. He also carried a machete and 14 years of Everglades experience. He left his radio behind, knowing water would render it useless. The comfortable 78-degree water felt much like home to him. He moved slowly, testing depth with each step, probing with a stick. The familiar smell of rotting vegetation and mosquitoes did not deter him. He pushed west, following a natural channel deeper into the swamp. As water deepened to chest height, Mason kept his rifle aloft. Each step on the unseen bottom told him if it was mud, roots, or solid ground. After 20 minutes, he heard them, Japanese voices ahead and to his right. He froze, allowing ripples from his movement to fade entirely into silence. The voices continued, 3 men, casual, unaware, feeling safe within the swamp. Mason moved towards them slower still, creating barely a ripple. Gators noticed ripples. Japanese soldiers might if they were watching. At 0904, he saw them. 3 Japanese soldiers on a small island. They had built a crude shelter, their supplies stacked nearby. Crucially, their backs were to the water, attention fixed eastward. They expected no approach from the swamp's interior, a grave mistake. Mason was 35 yards away, too far for his machete, yet too close to risk a rifle shot that would alert every enemy. He needed to get closer for a silent, decisive strike. Circling through deeper water, using mangrove roots for cover, he moved. It took 18 minutes to cover just 30 critical yards. At 0922, Mason was 15 feet from the island, directly behind their position. The soldiers were eating rice balls. One smoked a cigarette. Mason waited, remembering his gator hunting lessons. The moment of attack was critical. Rush it and the prey escapes. Wait and the kill is certain. At 0927, 2 soldiers moved to the far side of the island. The third remained near the water, finishing his meal isolated. It was perfect. Mason rose silently from the water, taking 3 steps. The machete blade found the soldier's throat from behind, yielding no sound. Mason lowered the body into the undergrowth, a silent kill. The other 2, still talking, were 15 feet away, backs still turned. Mason raised his rifle, fired twice, and both dropped. 3 Japanese dead, 3 shots. But those shots would draw attention. Mason immediately moved back into the water, finding heavy mangrove cover. He waited patiently, knowing the enemy would soon arrive. At 0933, he heard movement. Japanese soldiers splashing through water. They were noisy, concerned for comrades, not anticipating ambush. At least 5 men passed within 20 yards of Mason's hidden position. He remained still. Gator hunting taught him to let the swamp settle. The Japanese eventually found the 3 bodies, their shouts turning to confusion. Mason counted 6 soldiers as they searched the island, then withdrew. After 15 more minutes, he continued deeper into the swamp. Between 1015 and 1200, Mason eliminated 7 more Japanese soldiers. Each encounter followed the same quiet pattern: silent approach, close engagement. The Japanese were spread across small islands of dry ground. They anticipated danger from American front lines, not from the swamp. By noon, Mason accounted for 10 enemy soldiers and mapped 3 crucial channels. He returned to American lines at 13:15, mission accomplished. Captain Reynolds, hearing gunfire but seeing nothing, was waiting for him. Mason reported 10 confirmed kills and located multiple Japanese positions. The swamp, he concluded, was navigable if one understood its waters. Reynolds asked how long it would take to clear the entire swamp. Mason replied 2 weeks if alone, or 1 week with 4 skilled men. Reynolds had no such men. Mason would have to work alone. From January 14th to 25th, Mason entered the swamp every morning at dawn. He spent 8 to 10 hours daily methodically eliminating enemy soldiers. His pattern never deviated. Silent movement, locating positions, engaging close range. Some days he accounted for 2 or 3, others 6 or 7. The Japanese never adapted. They built defenses facing east towards American lines. Mason consistently approached from the west, through waters they believed impassable. By January 18th, a subtle, significant shift occurred. Japanese morale fractured. Soldiers vanished and bodies were found with close-range wounds. No American patrols had been observed, only a deep, unsettling fear. Some Japanese positions were abandoned overnight, seeking escape from Mason's presence. On January 20th, Mason located a position holding 8 Japanese soldiers. Too many for a direct assault. He noted the location and withdrew. Reynolds then directed an artillery strike, obliterating the position 2 hours later. By January 22nd, Mason had personally accounted for 68 Japanese soldiers. The swamp that once was a stronghold was now American-controlled territory. The remaining Japanese withdrew east, abandoning their defensive network. On January 25th, Mason conducted his final sweep of the area. He found 5 Japanese soldiers attempting to escape through southern channels. Mason ambushed and eliminated all 5, completing his mission. His total count over 12 days, 73 confirmed kills at ranges under 30 yards, all achieved using the water-stalking methods he learned as a gator hunter. The 37th Infantry Division's advance resumed on January 26th. Its left flank now secure, the once threatening swamps lay empty. On January 27th, headquarters summoned Mason for the official record. Mason described his techniques: feeling water depth, using natural channels, approaching unexpectedly. He eliminated targets silently to avoid alerting others, and unwavering patience. The general inquired if he could teach these specialized methods. Mason replied, "Perhaps to men who already understood water. Most soldiers feared swamps. Gator hunters grew up in them, understanding their unique challenges." In February 1945, Mason was assigned to the division training section. He spent 3 weeks instructing scout units in basic swamp navigation. He taught them to move quietly, read terrain, and approach from water routes. Not all soldiers readily absorbed these lessons, especially those from dry climates. But for others it came naturally, like Mason himself. By March, his water-stalking principles spread to other divisions. In April 1945, Mason received the Silver Star for exceptional tactics. His citation mentioned close-quarters swamp combat, yet it made no mention of gator hunting. Mason returned to the United States in October 1945, heading back to Ochape. He continued to hunt alligators for another 35 years with silent methods. Decades later, in 1978, a Special Forces instructor researched swamp warfare. He uncovered Mason's 12-day clearing operation and 73 kills. The instructor tracked Mason down. At 61, Mason was still hunting. Mason confirmed details, adding any experienced gator hunter could have done the same. Swamps were different, he explained, but water principles remained universal. The instructor asked what Mason thought during those 12 days. Mason responded he'd thought about a 12-foot gator tracked in 1938. That gator, he concluded, was more dangerous than the Japanese. Roy Mason passed away in 1989 at the age of 72. His hunting gear was donated to the Ochape Historical Society. Yet, at Fort Bragg's Special Warfare Center, Mason's operation remains studied. Understanding terrain provides an advantage pure firepower cannot match. One man, intimately familiar with a swamp, can achieve what companies cannot. His innate understanding of water could decisively alter battles. The 37th Infantry Division's push towards Manila accelerated afterwards. The vulnerable left flank became secure, Japanese raiding positions lost. Many histories overlook Roy Mason, the gator hunter who changed a battle.